new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Father, there is a vision which beholds all things as sinless, so that fear has gone, and where it was is love invited in, and love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. In His sight are all its sins forgiven. For He sees no sin in anything He looks upon. Now let His true perception come. Now let His true perception come to me, that I may waken from the dream of sin and look within upon my sinlessness. Now let me waken from the dream of sin and look within upon my sinlessness, which you have kept completely undefiled upon the altar to your holy Son. The self with which I would identify, the self with which I would identify. Now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. Oh, let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. How beautiful we are, how holy and how loving. Brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. Oh, brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. Brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. For in our vision it becomes as holy as the light in us. So now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Well, I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, here on lesson 313 in A Course in Miracles. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles, here on Friday, November the 8th of 2024. Now let a new perception come to me. Father, there is a vision which beholds all things as sinless, so that fear is gone, and where it was is love invited in, and love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift, that love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. In His sight are all its sins forgiven, for He sees no sin in anything He looks upon. Now let His true perception come to me, that I may waken from the dream of sin and look within upon my sinlessness, which you have kept completely undefiled upon the altar to your holy Son, the self with which I would identify. Let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. How beautiful we are when we behold each other in the sight of Christ through the eyes of forgiveness. Let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. How beautiful we are, how holy and how loving. Brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. For in our vision, it becomes as holy as the light in us. Now let a new perception come to me. Of course, that follows right on in the heel of our last two lessons. I judge all things as I would have them be, which he's trying to remind us that the way we judge things is the world that we're going to be caught of. What we give, what we're going to receive. So quit judging. Follow the Holy Spirit's holy judgment, his innocent judgment, the inner voice for peace in you that connects everyone. And then on yesterday, I see all things as I would have them be. And we might as well see the kingdom of heaven. That's what we want to see. Today, now let a new perception come to me. And what is the last judgment? Our associated reading, number 10. Christ's second coming gives the Son of God this gift, to hear the voice for God proclaim that what is false and what is true has never changed. And this the judgment is in which perception ends. At first you see a world that has accepted this as true, projected from a now corrected mind. And with this holy sight, perception gives a silent blessing and then disappears, its goal accomplished and its mission done. The final judgment on the world contains no condemnation, for it sees the world as totally forgiven, without sin and wholly purposeless, without a cause and now without a function in Christ's sight. It merely slips away to nothingness. There it was born, and there it ends as well. And all the figures in the dream in which the world began go with it. Bodies now are useless, and will therefore fade away, because the Son of God is limitless. You who believed that God's last judgment would condemn the world to hell along with you, accept this holy truth. God's judgment is the gift of the correction he bestowed on all your errors, freeing you from them and all effects they ever seem to have. To fear God's saving grace is but to fear complete release from suffering, return to peace, security, and happiness, and union with your own identity. God's final judgment is as merciful as every step in his appointed plan to bless his Son and call him to return to the eternal peace he shares with him. Be not afraid of love, for it alone can heal all sorrow, wipe away all tears, and gently waken from his dream of pain the Son whom God acknowledges as his. Be not afraid of this. Salvation asks you give it welcome, and the world awaits your glad acceptance, which will set it free. This is God's final judgment. You are still my holy Son. This is God's final judgment. You are still my holy Son, forever innocent and forever loving and forever loved. You are still my holy Son, forever innocent, forever loving, and forever loved, as limitless as your Creator, and completely changeless and forever pure. Therefore awaken and return to me. I am your Father, and you are my Son. Now let a new perception come to me. As we learn to look through the world through the eyes of Christ, we get to have the vision of Christ, the vision of, Father, hold not this sin against them. They don't know what they're doing. Of course, that was God. That was Jesus on the cross. He said, Father, he gets God's attention in his own mind, and he says, I know you're not going to hold this sin against them, but it sure seems like you ought to, and I'm dying because of the belief that's still residual in my body, but I know it's not true. It's just an appearance. You know, and I don't know exactly how he prayed that prayer, but I imagine when something like that, like, God, help me to see the reality that I'm eternal, and that that this is just an appearance, that I've got a crown of thorns, and I'm crucified to a cross, and I'm dying. I know the reality is that you don't judge anyone, and that I don't need to judge anyone. We don't need to hold any sin against anyone ever, because reality is we're all brothers. We all love each other with the love of Christ, with the love of God. Okay, let's go take a look in the Manual for Teachers. How do God's teachers deal with magic thoughts? And we've got down through paragraph 6, but I want to pick up in paragraph 4 again. But before I do, magic was defined in in Manual for Teachers number 16. I want to read that. How should the teacher of God spend his day? And it was in paragraph 8 and sentence 5 and 6. There are times his certainty will waver, talking about the teacher of God, and the instant this occurs, he will return to earlier attempts to place reliance on himself alone. Forget not, this is magic, to put reliance on yourself alone, not trust in the divine hand, divine guidance. Forget not, this is magic, to place reliance on yourself alone. Forget not, this is magic, and magic is a sorry substitute for true assistance. Okay, it's when you don't realize there's just one will in the universe, God's. Okay, let's pick up in paragraph 4. Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that no one can be angry at a fact. It is always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions, regardless of their seeming justification, by what appears as fact, regardless, too, of the intensity of the anger that is aroused. It may be merely slight irritation, perhaps too mild to be even clearly recognized, or it may also take the form of intense rage, accompanied by thoughts of violence, fanticide, or apparently acted out. It does not matter whether it's just a fantasy in your mind or whether you actually apparently acted it out. Remember, it's a dream either way if it's not love. Only love is real. All of these reactions are the same. They obscure the truth. And this can never be a matter of degree. Either truth is apparent or it is not. It cannot be partially recognized. Who is unaware of truth must look upon illusions. Paragraph 5. Anger in response to perceived magic thoughts is a basic cause of fear. Consider what this reaction means, and its centrality in the world's thought system becomes apparent. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. It states in the clearest form possible that the mind which believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God also believes it can succeed. So there's our magic thought again. That idea that we believe we can have a will apart from God's and that our will can be successful in overpowering God. Remember that? He'd say he's going to go ahead and remember that was the source of guilt. That this can hardly be a fact is obvious. Yet that it can be believed as fact is equally obvious. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself now has a deadly enemy, at least in his mind, not in reality. And he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep him safe from fury that can never be abated and vengeance that can never be satisfied. Oh, the idea that we have of God when we think we have a separate will from his. How can this unfair battle be resolved? Its ending is inevitable, for its outcome must be death. How then can one believe in one's defenses? Magic again must help. Forget the battle. Magic will help you cast a spell on yourself and you'll go unconscious. You'll forget that you're just making it all up, that you're dreaming. Forget the battle. Accept it as a fact and then forget it. Do not remember the impossible odds against you. Do not remember the immensity of the enemy. And do not think about your frailty in comparison. And that word enemy is in quotes because God's no enemy. But you'll believe he is when you have this idea that your will is in conflict with his. Accept your separation, but do not remember how it came about. That's what magic has you do. Believe that you have won it, but do not retain the slightest memory of who your great, in quotes, opponent really is. Of course, there's no opponent, but we can believe it is from that illusory state. Believe that you have won it, but do not retain the slightest memory of who your great opponent really is, projecting your, in quotes, forgetting onto him. It seems to you he has forgotten you. Paragraph 7. But what will now be your reaction to all magic thoughts? They can but reawaken sleeping guilt, which you have hidden, but have not let go. Each one says clearly to your frightened mind, you have usurped the place of God. Think not he has forgotten. So these frightened thoughts of your mind will say, you have usurped the place of God. Think not he has forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented, for in that thought has guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope except to kill. Here is salvation now. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. Beyond this there is none, for what was done cannot be done without. The stain of blood can never be removed, and anyone who bears this stain on him must meet with death. And that's a common idea in many religions today. That we're all, how's that say back in Ezekiel in the Old Testament? It talks about their blood will be on your hands because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. He that knows to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. That whole mentality that we've built around this idea that we're guilty. But Jesus came to try to get the ones of us that were willing to hear it, that there is no sin. We're free in that belief that that was a dream. We're dreaming it. Paragraph 8. Into this hopeless situation, God sends his teachers. They bring the light of hope from God himself. There is a way in which escape is possible. It can be learned and taught, but it requires patience and abundant willingness. Given that, the lesson's manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon, for such it is. If anger comes from an interpretation and not a fact, it is never justified, because you can always change your interpretation. Once this is even dimly grasped, the way is open. Well, we better work on that, huh? If you're just now starting to see that, work with your interpretations and realize there's always a miracle and an innocent perception that can be had if you'll just have that open-minded way of looking at things, looking at the facts with an open mind through the eyes of Christ, the forgiven world. Telling yourself in forgiveness. Forgiveness recognizes what I thought my brother did to me has not occurred. If anger comes from an interpretation and not a fact, it is never justified. Once this is even dimly grasped, the way is open. Now it is possible to take the next step. The interpretation can be changed at last. Magic thoughts need not lead to condemnation, for they do not really have the power to give rise to guilt, and so they can be overlooked and thus forgotten in the truest sense. And the last paragraph to finish this section, 9, madness but seems terrible. In truth, it has no power to make anything. Like the magic which becomes its servant, it neither attacks nor protects. To see it or to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing. Can nothing give rise to anger? Hardly so. Remember then, teacher of God, that anger recognizes a reality that is not there. Yet is the anger certain witness that you do believe in it as fact. Now is escape impossible, until you see you have responded to your own interpretation, which you have projected on an outside world. Let this grim sword be taken from you now. There is no death. This sword does not exist. The fear of God is causeless. The fear of God is causeless. But his love is cause of everything, beyond all fear, and thus forever real and always true. Okay, now let a new perception come to me. And what's going on around the world today? Well, I found out that it's Guru Nanak Ji's birthday, the founder of Sikhism. And it's also the birthday of another Sikh, Lokashah Jayanti, who was a 15th century reformer who opposed images. He was an iconoclast. He opposed images in the temple. And it's also the Jain New Year. So Happy New Year to you, Jains. Let's see what else is going on from holidays and observances. I found Abet and Aid Punsters Day, Lighten Up and Laugh Day, you might think of it as, or Dunce Day. You remember the old dunce hat? Think of it as a laughter. Laugh at your dunceness, at your stupidities, the things you do that are silly. Laugh at it. Cook something bold and pungent day. I made a pumpkin pie yesterday with that pumpkin that I had out for All Souls Day. Tongue Twister Day. It said I was saying say toy boat 5 times. I tried that. It's a tongue twister. Intersex Day of Remembrance. Cappuccino Day, Harvey Wallbanger Day, Parents as Teachers Day, S.T.E.M or S.T.E.A.M, which is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Day, X-Ray Day, and this is a day that Wilhelm Röntgen's discovered X-ray on this day in 1895. Walk to Work Day, and World Town Planning Day. And I'd like to tell you about, you might look at onesmalltown.org, Michael Tellinger's vision of a way to change the world for the better in each little small town in the world. One small town. Look it up. Michael Tellinger's. Let's see. And out of not edible landscaping, out of Seed Savers Exchange, we've got the dwarf blue curled Scotch Kale. We're going to go to a Brassica oleracea now. We're going to look at some of these kales. Gorgeous, finely curled blue-green leaves hold their color even in severe cold. Uniform, low-growing plants are 15 inches tall with a 20 to 35-inch spread. Very hardy. Will overwinter with mulch in zones 4 and 5, so should be an easy stride in zone 6 and 7. Ornamental and delicious, high in vitamin A, 53 to 65 days from transplant. And if you haven't planted any, you could probably grow some inside. And then as it gets bigger, take it outside even in the winter. You might want to give it a little protection with some plastic if you haven't got it started already. Okay, was there anything else? The Wyandotte people of Detroit and northern Canada or southern Canada, their word for peace is Scan-O-Nie. Scan-O-Nie, I think, is how to pronounce it. Scan-O-Nie. Okay, well, let's sing our song and be about our Father's business today. Seeing a new perception of a forgiven world. Now let a new perception, now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Father, there is a vision which beholds all things as endless, so that fear has gone, and where it was His love invited in, and love will come wherever it is asked. Love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. In His sight are all its sins forgiven. In His sight are all sins forgiven. For He sees no sin in anything. He sees no sin in anything He looks upon. Now let His true perception come to me. Now let his true perception come to me, that I may waken from the dream of sin and look within upon my sinlessness, which you have kept completely undefiled upon the altar to your holy Son, the self with which I would identify, the self with which I would identify. Oh, now let a new, now let a new, now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. How beautiful we are, how holy and how loving. Oh, brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. Oh, brother, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined. For in our vision it becomes as holy as the light in us. So, for in our vision it becomes as holy as the light in us. Now let a new perception come. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Oh, now let a new perception come to me. Now let a new perception come to me. Got off of my chords there a little bit, but we made it through, huh? Now let a new perception come to me. Thank you all so much for joining me as we learn to look at the world through the eyes of forgiveness. And we see that there is no guilt. That was our own making. And it beat us down, paralyzed us, made us go unconscious. Let's awake from the dream now and see the world the way Christ sees the world, through forgiveness, seeing the love of God in everyone. Now let a new perception come to me. And from our Wyandotte brothers, which Wyandotte, little town of Wyandotte's just down the road from me a ways, which in Ottawa County, Oklahoma, where they don't live in Detroit as much anymore, I don't suppose. They have got a homeland in Indian Territory, which has now become Oklahoma. And our word for peace in Wyandotte is Scan-O-Nie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now let a new perception come to me. Scan-O-Nie.